Hi everybody, it's Adam from Pixel, and before I start today's behind the scenes, a very cool lesson, I just want to give you a quick update. This past weekend, I had the honor of being invited to the Ottawa Gaming Conference, or at least the Canadian Gaming Conference in Ottawa, Canada, and unsurprisingly, it was an absolutely incredible event. I met some of the most amazing, authentic people, as I always do when I'm in Ottawa, because Ottawans are absolutely fantastic people. Passionate artists and game developers. Got a chance to check out some amazing projects, and I brought my camera with me along the ride. So I got a chance to meet artists and videotape the whole event. The stuff that at least I was permitted to videotape, of course, so a lot of it was private stuff for members only type of situation. But I took away something of incredible value from every person I met. And that's actually what's going to be fueling the next few videos that I'm going to be producing for you, including an art talk. However, if you follow my channel, you know that yesterday I posted a video about YouTube, who decided, in characteristic YouTube behavior, to unplug a very important feature without any warning or indication or nothing, no explanation, just flip the switch, which threw me and a ton of other content creators into a complete panic because we depend on these features. Not public features, so it doesn't affect my public videos like my behind the scenes or art talks. It doesn't affect those, but private videos, yes. But I am a firm believer that true change happens when you're on the brink. And this forced me to move on something that I've been planning for a little while, just forced me to move on it a little bit quicker. And has put me into a position to revamp and update some really cool stuff, which I'll share with you very soon. Can't talk about it just yet, but shame on you, YouTube. You have millions of subscribers, 450 hours of content per minute, and you don't know how to use an email. So shame on you. But I'm not here to complain. I'm here to teach, because I have something very cool. Today's lesson, extremely simple yet valuable lesson, comes to you from one of the artists and art directors that I got to meet this weekend in person. Somebody who I've been following for years, but somebody I actually got to meet on a personal level, and I'm so completely honored to have had this opportunity, and I'm talking about Dan Vargas, who is the art director at Ubisoft, who's worked on several, Assassin's Creed titles, and is of course working on a really exciting secret project with Ubisoft right now. And knowing this kind of stuff he's worked on, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty badass. With that said, all of Dan Vargas's information, his social media and stuff like that, is going to be linked below. So you can go and show him some love and follow him on different platforms and stuff like that. I'll leave all of the links below. All right, so thank you, Dan, for this amazing lesson. Now, where did I learn this lesson? Well, when I was attending his workshop, at the end, he had a Q&A period, and I had asked him a question I'd been dying to ask him, which was, because I was speaking to a director, from a director's perspective, what is one of the most distinguishing differences between the artwork of a beginner or a more entry-level professional, at least, versus a seasoned professional, somebody who's more of a veteran? And without batting an eyelash, he said, it is the proportion of rendering to design. Now, to a lot of you artists out there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And in this particular case, I would say I am speaking to artists in general, but primarily concept artists. Because remember, a concept artist's job is to ideate, is to create concepts. And these concepts are stuff, you're going to be flushing them out very, very quickly. So when it comes to working as a concept artist, one of your main jobs is to produce quality, valuable content that generates a lot of ideas quickly. And it's that very lesson, it's that very factor of art that I want to illustrate today. So let's take an imaginary situation. Let's take this to the drawing board, and I'm going to imagine, let's say, a jungle. It's kind of like this Indiana Jonesy type of character in a jungle, and he's uncovered some kind of ancient idol out in the wilderness. It won't be in a cave. I'm not going to completely rip off Steven Spielberg here, but it's out in the jungle, and there's some old brush, some like very dense brush in the jungle, and he sees some kind of an idol, maybe on some kind of an elevation or something like that. That's kind of what I have in my head. Now, what would a beginner do? Doink. What would a beginner do? Or at least somebody who's a less seasoned artist? Well, a less seasoned artist would focus on the content, right, itself. So they would, yoink, I'm just gonna start small. They would, okay, so I've got an Indiana Jones character and he's kind of standing on some kind of pedestal over here. And like that, and he's standing over here like this. He's got his hat like that. And he's looking at this idol. I'm going cartoony on you today, guys. Like that, just to keep it simple, because the whole idea is to go quickly, right? And I'm thinking since he's on Indiana Jones, he probably has a whip on the side and maybe has a machete because he's been cutting through the woods. And here's his outfit. And maybe we can have a tree over here, like that. And there's a kind of an elevation, and here's going to be kind of a platform with this magical idol that's going to be over here. And I'm going to have the light shining in it because we always love those God rays, right? It's all about them God rays. And we have a bush over here and maybe some more trees over here. Now, what would a beginner do at this point? A beginner would start rendering this. They would start blocking the colors and spending hours and hours and hours rendering out that leather and drawing every blade of grass and focusing on the bark of the tree. What you've done is you've just placed some props into the scene and then you spend the rest of your time rendering it. To a director, to a production studio, and to an audience in general, no matter how much you polish it up, it's still lacking content. And content is where the word design comes into the picture. There's one of my favorite expressions that I quote to my students all the time is from the singer Tom Waits. And in one of his songs, he says, one of his lines is, there's only so many ways you can polish up a turd. Well, what this is so far is just a turd. It's not interesting. There's nothing interesting going on with this. I can bedazzle a turd as much as I want. That's what rendering is. It's just bedazzling something, but it's still crap. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing for my eyes to sink into. There's not enough content to immerse me into the scene. It's very empty and plain, right? So I would go on rendering all of this. Well, forget about rendering. What you should be doing at this particular point, especially at this early stage in the game, is designing. So I want to come in here and add more interest to the trees and add some mushrooms and leaves on these trees and get some different wild plants in the shot and some foreground bush. I remember watching, if you ever watched The Lord of the Rings, the making of Lord of the Rings, when they were building Hobbiton, Peter Jackson had walked into, like Alan Lee and John Howe had been sketching out Hobbiton, and then they spent like well over a year building Hobbiton from scratch with all the construction crews and stuff like that. And a year later, Peter Jackson came to see Hobbiton for the first time built. And he looks over the landscape looking at it, and in his very traditional Kiwi New Zealand way, they always downplay things, right? And he looks at it and goes, it's good, you know? He's looking at freaking Hobbiton here, so of course, you know, it's more exciting than that, but it's good. You just need some more bushes. And the first thing that Peter Jackson said was, you need to populate the scene with more shrubbery, more farms and fruits and pigs and people and archways and flowers, and populate the scene, make it more immersive, make it more lived in. That's design. He was giving design tips to his production crew. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna add more bushes, make it a lot more, you know, add some flowers to those bushes, have some twigs sticking out of here, have some overgrowth, maybe some vines growing up here. I'm not rendering anything, I'm adding information, I'm adding content to it. Of course, it's a very rough, loose sketch, right? Add some vines growing off the side here, maybe some kind of vines twisting and turning over here, a log that crosses over here with some flowers and weeds growing on it. There is a ratio of rendering to design where design to a certain degree can actually replace the need to render, because you've designed so many things, you've added so much content to it that you don't need to polish so much. Yes, where need be, and yes, depending on the type of project you're working on, some projects require you to be more refined than others. Some projects allow you to be loose, especially in the concepting phase, right? But there's so much information there. The director, the team, your audience don't need you to render it. They're already excited with the project because you've given them something so exciting to look at, something so immersive with so much detail and depth and narrative to it. That's what this is. What a beginner would have done would have been to spend the next 2 or 3 days rendering the crap out of the scene. Don't. Design it first. Invest your energy into that, and where need be, render it after, okay? Now, the same rule can apply to vehicle design, costume design, okay? Let's say I'm designing my character here. So we'll zoom in a little bit closer and we'll have a closer look at our Indiana Jones character, okay? So right here, we have our character. Again, what would a more beginner artist do? They would draw the basics. We'd have our character, like that, and here's his suit. Again, I'm being very basic with you guys. Don't expect a masterpiece. And he's got his shirt and tie, and there he is. He's a happy guy. He's a happy-go-lucky, very innocent Indiana Jonesy character. And there he is. And we put the thing here. No, get into the character. Get into his face, the stubble, the beard. You know, have the machete. Design that machete. Make that machete look interesting. Like that. Give it some ropes and interesting things hanging off of it. The zippers, the buckles, tear marks. Maybe he's patched it up. This is Indiana Jones, for God's sakes. He's a rough and tumble kind of guy, right? He's got his gun holster. He's got some dirt on his knees. Maybe he's ripped his pants. He's got a gun hole in his hat. He's got things on his hat over here. He's got his beard, all that kind of rough. He's got his whole stubbly guy. He's got his thick eyebrows. He's got some patches on his elbows. Whatever. I'm making shit up as I go along here. You get the point. But I'm making this guy a very interesting, immersive character. I'm adding as much content to him. And the things that I add to him, I'm not just going to make a generic gun, a generic whip, a generic coat. No, I want to give it age and wear and tear and character. That's what makes this character interesting to look at, not how polished and rendered out that leather is. That's something you can focus on after. You can come in after and add a little bit more spit polish to it, if need be. But before you can even sell that rendering, you first have to sell the character, and that's where you're selling the character. Think about vehicle design. Think about designing a tree. Generic tree, the trunk and the leaves done? No, add moss and leaves and mushrooms and vines and little things hanging off of it to make that tree more engaging, more exciting for your audience to look at. And that's exactly what Dan meant by that comment. A professional artist will come in and jump, boom, straight into design. And in that same period of time, in 2 hours, the same 2 hours that it would have taken an amateur to render out a coat, he's designed an entire scene because he's created all of this immersive content. And that's what I want to take away with you. How much rendering are you doing in your artwork? And are you focusing too much energy into that and not enough into the design process? All right? Focus on that, and I guarantee you, you will see an overnight transformation in the quality and the engaging aspect of your artwork. With that said, thank you very much, Dan Vargas, for that absolutely amazing response, and thank you for inspiring today's art talk. All of his information is going to be below, not his personal info, of course, just his social info. Don't worry, Dan, I'm not going to do anything like that. As well, don't forget about my online art mentorship, Lucid Pixel, which is currently being revamped very excitedly. Thank you to YouTube for that. And of course, don't forget about my art talks once a month and the Brush Sauce Theater Art Contest with myself and Tyler Edlin every month as well. All of the information's below. Go and check it out for yourself. And thank you very much for watching. Take care, everybody.